Coach, it was an incredible run last year to Phoenix to see you guys play in the national championship game. When you've looked back, and I know that with coaching, it doesn't always, like you're
Right.
always looking ahead, but when you have been able to maybe reflect on last year,
Yeah.
what was the most gratifying part of making that run and
Yeah.
getting to the Final Four?
Probably just staying the course. Like when you go through losing the game that we did the previous NCAA tournament, like you want to play in the next NCAA tournament immediately, but you got to sit in it through the summer and all the way through the fall to get just to start your season. So now being able to kind of face that, we're still undefeated for the third straight year. We've won 35 straight non-conference games. We win our league by 3 games again, and then get into the Big Ten tournament to those guys. They didn't even want to play in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's the Big Ten tournament.
You get a ring.
Yeah, like it's an important piece. I'm like, no, it's not that important. We won it last year, and we lose the first game, and it absolutely means nothing to us. And I said, well, in time it will mean more to you. But they really kind of saw the big picture, and through our talks, our guys really face it. So I would say that's it, just facing that adversity and being able to take that on, and then going in and being productive. And playing well in the NCAA tournament and getting ourselves in a great position.
So many coaches that have been great coaches, and Gene Cady is one of them, have had terrific careers but never made the Final Four.
Right.
Now that you have coached in the Final Four, do you feel any differently?
I don't. I don't. You won the necessary games. We've won games before. We've won games in the NCAA tournament before. We've been into the second weekend 7 different times, but getting through that second weekend has been difficult for us. Maybe in time you feel differently, but like the thing that concerns you now is just trying to be on edge. Like, are you really thinking about trying to win a 3rd Big Ten championship, which has rarely been done? It's only been done like I think 3 or 4 times ever in the history of the Big Ten. So those are some things, getting back to a Final Four, trying to win a national championship. Like, we got to do a good job of keeping our guys on edge.
The portal dominates so much, especially of the offseason. Everything that you hear about from the Final Four on is about players going elsewhere. That hasn't been the case in your program. Why have you been able to retain players at such a high level?
Yeah, I think it starts in the evaluation of them, finding guys that education's important, the love of basketball is important, and getting the right guys. We also redshirt some guys. So now from that development stage, like now when they don't have a chance to play, now they can sit out, kind of learn the system, get better, improve, get stronger, get quicker, whatever it might be. So now they're in a better position. So many people start off their college career with a negative, like they're not playing as much as they want. They're not getting as many shots as they want. Well, that's just an immediate transfer. And so like if they're gonna play, that's great. If they're not, then let's hold this back a year so now you're not coming off of that and you feel like you're wasting time somewhere because you think that first year is going to be like your second year. And then I think that's really, really helped us. But education's got to be a big part of it. For most of your guys, it's got to be a big, big part of it, because right as you kind of hit a wall and you think like, man, like this might not be the best situation for me basketball-wise, but I want to get a Purdue degree. So a lot of our guys that have left have been guys that have redshirted or got to the end, and then they've gotten their degree from Purdue, but they've also not loved their role. Like not everybody's going to love their role.
Right.
And so if you can't get yourself in that position, you see like, hey, I want to go out there and get it. And that's what's kind of the downside of the portal, in my opinion, is you should be searching out places where you can win more. You shouldn't be searching out places where you can shoot more or play more. Like it's not recess. Like everybody doesn't get to play. You got to earn your way and compete and beat people out. That's what competition's about.
Zach Edey moves on, and of course, as a coach, you never want the 2-time national player to leave your program. But does it excite you that you get to play a different way and maybe just tinker offensively with, hey, we can do some different things now?
Yeah, and we have some different lineups. I think Trey Kaufman, Ren's versatility really allows us to do that. Braden's ball handling and in the way he can run a team really helps us with that. And so I think that piece of it is like where we use Trey Kaufman, Ren is going to dictate some things, but kind of waiting for whoever that might be, whether that's Caleb First, whether that's Will Berg, whether that's Daniel Jacobson, Raleigh Burgess, that mix of guys right in there, like who's going to fill in there, that'll dictate how we kind of play. And you can play differently with a couple different lineups within a game, even though sometimes it's hard to manage, but you just can. You got to know the strengths of the guys that are in there. But we can go quicker and have another ball handler, which really helped Fletcher last year with Lance Jones, with C.J. Cox or Jakari Harris, or we can go with bigger wings. You know, we have a hybrid forward in Cam Heide. He can play the 3-4. We can even push Trey to the 5, and he plays the 4 and have a lot of skill out on the floor. And then Miles Colvin's ability, you know, to make shots. Like I think his catch and shoot stuff, his athleticism, and so that right there, if you go smaller, you're going to wedge a big out of there.
Yeah.
And if you go bigger, you're going to wedge a guard out of there. And that's what stinks. I always like to make it work for everybody. And when we've gotten to where we've got a pretty deep team, and but I think we have some guys on our roster that we're not going to need them every night, but we're going to need them.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what I felt with Miles last year. I was like, man, I feel like we can win a national championship. I want to keep everybody in play, but I don't know if I need him every single night.
Right.
No different than Ethan Morton. I didn't need him every single night. Caleb First, I didn't need him every single night, but there was times when we needed all of them. Now, each one of those guys I mentioned, they want to get into those roles where they're needed every night.
Sure.
And I'm waiting on them to be productive and it's really to separate themselves from the other guys.
That was my takeaway from practice was, A, the airport test continues to not be a problem with the number of big bodies, but the depth. I mean, when I was playing for you at 7, 8, 9, 10, you were kind of sliding down.
It wasn't kind of.
It was a drop-off. But
Yes.
now, is this the deepest team that you've ever had?
Yeah, the last couple of years, you know, we've really kind of stayed with, you know, adding the two guards that I mentioned and Jack Benner, who can really pass and shoot the basketball. Riley Burgess has really shot the ball well. Daniel shoots threes, trying to get him to shoot him when he's just wide open. But but that fact of bringing in 5 guys that all can shoot the basketball, we're deep, but we're also skilled. And when you're that way, hopefully you can do a lot of different things.
Braden Smith's named the preseason Big Ten Player of the Year. What makes him one of the elite point guards in college basketball?
Just his ability to understand pace and really to manipulate the defense. He does a great job of reading the defense and understanding, you know, whether they're in a drop or a deep drop or switch in or a flat hedge or a high hedge. They're icing a lot of things. Whatever they're doing, he understands the reads and he understands how to, you know, manipulate them with pass fakes, ball fakes, you know, changing where he's looking, things of that nature. But, you know, he's just an unselfish player. You got to kind of rewire him a little bit, trying to get him to shoot, something that I always tried to do with you right away, because you just know the game and you play the game and you want to defer to others naturally, and you got to learn to be aggressive. He's aggressive, but he's not always aggressive to score, and that's what we need him to do. He has shot the ball a lot more here in practice, and we need him to continue to do that and just keep shooting the basketball and keep being aggressive.
As a coach, what's it like to coach in this league? Because when I played in it, there were some teams that you knew, as long as we're semi-hooked up, we're probably going to win.
Right.
And you look at the schedule now over the course of 20 games, and the bottom of the league is totally a gauntlet because everybody is good. How do you manage that as a coach as you go through a season this tough?
Yeah, it is difficult because it's when you hit your tough rut or that tough stretch, you know, that 6 games in 18 days or whatever it might be. But just moving to the next game and understanding we're the team that we got to worry about the most. We're the team that's going to trip us up more than one of our opponents. So learning just to play to your strengths. I always reel off our record since I've been there in terms of when we out-rebound people and we have fewer turnovers. And it's just a unbelievable number. And then when you see the reverse of it, when you have fewer rebounds and more turnovers, that's an ugly number.
Yeah.
And so they understand those 2 pillars don't go away. So if you have skill and you take care of the basketball and you rebound the basketball, you're going to put yourself in a good spot.
What excites you most about the 4 West Coast schools coming in?
What excites me is going and playing there because I've never been to any of their gyms,
Yeah.
which is kind of crazy, right? You're in college basketball for 36 years, and I've never been to Oregon, Washington, UCLA, or USC. And I've been on Oregon's campus, but I've never been to any of the other 3's campuses. So,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Fletcher Loyer was able to have, in the biggest moments, some of his best games.
Right.
You know, maybe how does he be more consistent this year, and what does he need to do to maybe take that next step?
Right. I think for him, he works so hard in the offseason on his body. He's never going to be the most athletic guy on the court, but, you know, he's a tough guy. He's blue collar. He's very intelligent. He knows what's going on out there. So he's going to make for a good coach if he wants to do that. But for him, like, he thrives in the moment, and that's where he kind of separates himself from others. Like, you come into our practice some days, and then you're just like, man, this guy's got this guy's got that, but they don't have what he has, the makeup. He has great makeup as a player in terms of he understands what leads to winning, and he's not scared of the moment. Like, so many guys have great physical ability, but then when they get in the moment, can they make a big shot? Do they want the big shot? He's always wanting to step up. Sometimes he'll jump over the fight. Like, he is so good when he has angles. So if he comes off a pin down, he comes off a ball screen, he gets in transition, and he has angles. He's a really good player. Sometimes he drives to create those angles and doesn't get there, and that's where he gets into trouble. But sometimes it's like, that's okay, because like, he believes in himself, and we want him to keep, thriving in that area.
Was there a game or a moment that changed your thought process on rebounding, where you need to get bigger or more physical, or it kind of change what maybe you're doing?
Just the success of Michigan State,
Yeah.
and the way that sometimes we would just stop them, but then they would get the rebound, and it just seemed like it was just just demoralizing, right?
Yeah.
Like, they did three things on offense. We stopped all of them. They took a tough shot. They got the rebound and they scored, or we fouled them and they scored. That's
Right.
how normally it happens, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, that piece of it. So I did a lot of our dry work, especially offensively, to where when we're running plays, we're constantly getting our safety back. We're constantly getting our guard up there, and we're constantly talking about, okay, whoever shot the basketball, where it's coming from, where you should go to rebound the basketball. So when we're working through our dry plays, we're still working transition defense, and we're still working offensive rebounding.